Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I'm your host, D Palm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. And we're, of course, brought to you by the good folks at the Intern Network. Follow them on Twitter at the Intern Network. Entertainment news, movie, TV, video games, podcasts, and oh so much more. And, of course, now sports. Really glad to be back in the booth talking to you guys. And we have a very special guest today. Friend of the show. We've had him on talking real sports before. He's on our old show talking WWE more often than not, and I'm happy to have him back, Sam Franco. I'm not going to tell them where to find you. Can you kind of pimp yourself? It's too much.
Yeah, of course. I'm a man of many talents, if you will. I like to spread my wings. So, first of all, at Sam J. Franco on Twitter. And I am the co-host of the morning show on Athens Sports Radio 960 The Ref. You can follow along there at 960 The Ref and on Facebook /960 The Ref, all that stuff. And also I am one of the hosts of the Mouths of the South podcast covering Atlanta United on the SB Nation platform. You can find us there at MOTS Podcast, and it's for DirtySouthSoccer.com at DirtySouthSoc. And last but not least, once a week, I am doing Falcons previews for 247 Sports, and you can find those at atl.247sports.com. So there's the rundown.
See, I didn't even I would have done that and left off the 247 Sports thing.
Well, that's a newer thing. I mean, I kind of started doing that somewhat recently, so that's something that I've like I said, it's not something I've been doing for super long. So it's all good, man. That's why I'm here.
It's good to have you back. Hey, before we get into everything, I want to ask the listeners, now that you found the podcast, do me a huge favor and subscribe to the podcast in iTunes. Subscribe in any way you can get your podcast. Make sure so you don't miss any episodes. When you subscribe, if you leave a 5-star review in iTunes, read it on the air. If you have anything else you want to send to the show, you can email us at udpodcast@gmail.com. We have a 5-star review. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to read the title because, I don't know, I'm weird. It's from the Film Wanderer. Ever since you've been on the Intern Network brand, talking politics, comics, and movies, I've been a fan of yours. Unanimous Decision is easily one of my top 5 favorite sports podcasts. It's fun, refreshing, optimistic, and great. I simply love it. Thank you for the review. Those are 4 things we try to be, and we really appreciate the kind words. And anytime you leave 5 stars, we'll read it on the air. Great way to have your voice heard. And maybe tell us, either like nice things like that. I don't take compliments well, Sam. I don't know what to do.
It happens, that's the thing. But I will say this, much better compliments than internet trolling. That's for sure.
I should enjoy the compliment. You're 100% right. All right, well, let's get right into it. Sam, last night we were talking about doing the podcast, but you couldn't because you had to call a game. So you call the home games for, is it both the men's and women's basketball teams?
Yeah, PA announcer for the men's and women's teams at UGA. Also, shout out to the Dogs for going over to Atlanta and beating Tech tonight. That was what I was doing, watching that before you and I jumped on here tonight.
Well, that's awesome. So what's it like? So, I don't know. I think it's just an interesting – we've talked about your radio work before. How did you get into doing the PA announcing? Because that's something that's such a specific skill set.
Yeah, it is. And, not necessarily something that I had imagined doing. I remember going to Hawks games in high school and early college and hearing Ryan Cameron do it. And he's so great at it at the Hawks games. If you haven't been to a game, you should go and check it out. And he definitely provides a lot of great atmosphere for that. And just seeing that and thinking that it was kind of cool. And then, with my radio gig here in Athens, one day somebody with the athletic department staff came up to me and said, hey, we've got some PA announcing opportunities opening, and, we like to go to you radio guys to see if y'all want to do it. And so the first thing I ever did was tennis. I did PA announcing for tennis at Georgia, and it was okay. It was a nice check for not having to do a whole lot of work. And then, that's where I got my start. And then softball opened up, and softball was my first real sport where I kind of got to spread the wings a little bit and be kind of that rambunctious style PA announcer. And from softball, I jumped over to women's basketball, and that was really where I started to really enjoy doing it. You get to do the starting lineups, and I remember as a little kid watching the Bulls a lot and seeing their intros during the NBA Finals, where they would have that weird animation with the bull running through the city of Chicago.
Like 1996.
It really did. And then they had the guy doing the kind of head guard, you know, like the 6'6" from North Carolina, you know, and like they had that, and then the Alan Parsons Project song in the background. Yeah. So you just had all that stuff, and I just thought of how cool that was. And that's, you know, just remembering all that and kind of having that inspiration from, like, you know, those games, and then the Ryan Cameron of the Hawks. So kind of incorporating little bits of all of that motivation into my style of doing it. So I was doing the women's games for a few years, and then the men's games opened up, and the first game I ever called for the men was the PA announcer who was doing Georgia men's basketball got sick, and so they had me do the Kentucky game. It was Contavious Caldwell-Pope's last game in Athens, and Georgia beat Kentucky. And so that was my first game as the full-time PA announcer, because the next year I took over full-time, and been doing men's games and UGA soccer as well. So it's been a really cool gig, and I have the best seat in the house every night, so I can't complain.
Does your particular fanhood, I know you said you started in like tennis, but does your particular fanhood for college basketball and for soccer lend itself to your style, you think?
Oh, certainly. I mean, you know, the fact that I'm into the games a little more definitely helps. And, you know, being a you know, radio guy, I'm never going to call myself a journalist, because that's not what I am.
I wouldn't let you do that.
I'm more paid. Well, I'm more paid to give opinions. I'm not writing columns. I do write like editorial columns and stuff for Dirty South Soccer, the website. But no, I'm not. So it's not my job to be objective. But that doesn't mean that I can go to games and cover games and press boxes and things and openly cheer. You know, there's still a decorum you have to have. So one thing going to UGA football games as a media member, if you will, has taught me is to be able to kind of put the fandom at least a little bit in the background so I can still do my job. And that doesn't necessarily mean, though, that, you know, I'm not getting, you know, hyped up. And it is my job to be hyped up at the basketball game. So I remember a few games ago, Yante Mayton for Georgia had a really nasty putback dunk. And before I, you know, did the Yante Mayton, you know, into the mic, I had to, I turned the mic off and went, oh, because it was like, you know, just a really sick putback. And I had to catch myself for a second. So sometimes you get those moments. And I've had friends watching games on TV, like, you know, take the picture of me sitting at the desk. And there was one really funny one where it was, I can't remember who the Dogs were playing, but there was a really long review, and the ref came over to the official scorer who's just next to me and was explaining all this stuff. And the picture is me just staring a hole through this ref. Like, will you hurry this up already? It was one of my favorite things ever. So that job has definitely been good to me. And it's not only a pretty good little paycheck, but it's also something that I really like doing. And obviously I get to do it for the university that I've been affiliated with for a long time. So it definitely has been a good job.
All right. This is a real kind of, you know, hardball question here. Are you more Tony Schiavone or more Jim Ross?
You know, I think I incorporate elements of both. I will say that Tony Schiavone was a little more kind of straightforward, calling the action, it seems, most of the time, whereas Jim Ross tended to have those sayings and the over the topness that would come and the good God Almighty, you know, like things like that. Like that wasn't necessarily Tony's style. And shout out to Tony, who is actually the engineer for the Georgia men's basketball games and the football games. I actually get to see Tony every time I go to work. So that's a pretty cool little thing there.
Over early, guys.
I am indeed. But no, it's I would say a little bit of both. I would probably, honestly, because my job is not so much calling the action in terms of play-by-play. It's more, you know, just getting in and doing starting lineups and things like that. I'd say I'm more Michael Buffer, but I've heard that he's really like into suing people. So I don't want to drop.
Let's say more a Road Dogg Jesse James.
Yeah. That's perfect, actually. Or like, you know, like a blend between Road Dogg and Enzo Amore. That'll be a good little way to go. Yes, exactly. And you know, maybe even a little bit of the glorious one, Bobby Roode, if we're gonna.
I'm sure we're talking about him very, very soon.
Of course.
Well, I do want to talk to you because, you live in the college football space. I love that space. I got to ask about the question of the week. We've got a lot of players leaving early, saying that they're not going to play in their bowl games, particularly running backs. I think I've been pretty clear where this show stands. I'm curious where you stand.
I don't have a problem with this. The only way I would have a problem with this is if you saw somebody from one of the playoff bowls, like if one of the really good Alabama players, Minkah Fitzpatrick comes to mind, although I know he's not eligible for the draft, but say he was eligible for the draft. He's Mr. Pick Six. He's been one of Alabama's most important players on defense, and he said, I'm going to skip the Peach Bowl and possible national title game so I can go get ready. And obviously I don't think anybody would do that because you want to win a championship. But still, I mean, that's the only way I would even have remotely a problem with this. Like if Deshaun Watson, for example, was like, you know what? I'm not going to play in the Fiesta Bowl because I got the NFL to get ready for. I'd be like, okay, that's messed up. But these bowl games, and, I do kind of struggle with this because in a sense, fans do travel to these games, pay money to go to these games. And so I get it from that perspective. But at the same time, you look at Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette, the two big high-profile ones, and even Shock Linwood, the Baylor running back, who has said he's going to do this. That actually came out earlier today. Not going to play.
News, guys.
Yeah, it is. But he said he's not going to play in Baylor's bowl game either. So I think you have different circumstances. Like Christian McCaffrey comes from money. So that one might be a little bit different because his dad obviously played in the NFL. But you have a guy like Leonard Fournette who didn't come from money, and he has a chance to provide for his family and not cost himself a lot of money. And I even saw Marshall Faulk tweet earlier today, which seemed kind of asinine the way that he put it out there. But he said, if a kid isn't going to play in a bowl game, this is a tweet. If a running back can't play in a bowl game versus college competition without getting hurt, how in the hell is he going to play 16 plus games in the NFL? Which is such a stupid thing to say because it's not about that. It's about getting the best possible contract you can get going into the league. So if you hurt yourself in the bowl game, you're not going to get a huge signing bonus, okay? You're not going to get that huge first-round money. So yes, of course, this is not about skipping the game to get hurt in that sense. It's about not getting hurt so that you can make the most money on that first contract.
Not even the first contract, because what happens is, and this is just me being, in a past life, I was accredited with the NFL Players Association, and so I had to sit through the compliance meeting. Part of the new CBA stated with the restructuring of the money, there was never going to be big first-round money ever again. So once you've taken that big first-round money off the table, if I can get drafted fourth round or higher, I want to get started immediately because we all know that every running back we've ever seen, there's a finite amount of carries. And generally,
for sure.
You don't taper off, you fall off a cliff. So your earning potential is already limited. If you know that you're going to have an opportunity to get to the second contract, and that's really the goal, get to the second one. That's the one that sets you up for life. But the first goal is to get in healthy. Because there have been guys who went in, who played in these bowl games. And it's so funny because people on the one hand will tout for more playoffs and call the bowl games meaningless. But when players want to skip them, how dare they?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. You look at what Alabama did to Derrick Henry towards the back end of his career. I mean, dude was getting 35, 40 carries a game.
People don't seem to understand how big that number is. No one in the NFL averages that many carries anymore. And guess what? Those games are longer. College games are faster
you're totally right.
than NFL games.
No, it's ridiculous. So I think that when you have a guy like a Marshall Faulk, and you see all these old school players or older players come out and bash the younger generation, and I think that's a problem we have in sports in general. The older generations or players that came before never respect the current generation of players. I'm a Michael Jordan guy, and that was the NBA I grew up watching. But when you have all these guys just throwing shade at guys like Steph Curry and things like that, like, oh, Steph Curry wouldn't be the MVP in my day. Like, he was too small. He wouldn't last in my NBA. It's like, why can't we just appreciate what we have right now? And so you get that a lot. So you have guys like a Willis McGahee come out who I don't understand his take on this at all because he got himself cost a lot of money.
On somebody's payroll, man.
He's got to be, because we all remember that Ohio State national title game when his knee just got completely torn to shreds. So one of the worst injuries I've ever seen happen live in a football game. So you would think he would have a little more understanding of guys like Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette. And McCaffrey and Fournette's circumstances were even different in the sense that Fournette's been hurt like all year. He hasn't been 100% healthy all year. And thank goodness LSU has Darius Geis in the fold as well, another very good running back, or else they would be in a lot of trouble. So for them to for him to skip out on the bowl game makes even a little more sense than I would say Christian McCaffrey, but I don't fault either of them for doing it, or Shock Linwood for that matter.
Man, I do want to say this. I'm glad we had to do this. It's a positive story, in my opinion, that we're covering, but I do want to point out one more time, Jim Mora Jr. does the opposite of this every time someone leaves early. I cannot let this go unsaid every time. I'm sorry.
You can't be giving plaudits to Jim Mora Jr.
I'm saying he does the opposite. He rips kids in. And I can't believe he still gets recruits.
Well, Jim Mora Jr. is also the idiot that said he would leave the Falcons like a week before the Super Bowl if Washington offered him the head coaching job. So yeah, let's not ever, that guy's just an idiot.
Let's alleviate ourselves of the worries and woes of Atlanta sports and how they've hurt us over the years. Let's talk about something.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only way you can make me more mad is if you started talking about Bobby Petrino.
Let's talk about something that's designed to make us happy. Professional wrestling. Yes, that's right.
All right.
We have taken it upon ourselves to take on the task of recapping the year through awards because the WWE, in their infinite wisdom, is not doing the Slammys this year.
Which is crazy. I mean, I always kind of bookend my year with the Slammy Awards and all of the pomp and circumstance that goes along with it. But them not doing it this year, or maybe pushing it back, as some rumors have said that they might do. But yeah, somebody's got to do it, so why not us?
I'm wearing my Slammys tux. I know you are too. And by tux, I mean like an old Roddy Piper t-shirt. But I think that counts. Let's start with what I guess some still call developmental, though NXT kind of evolved into a traveling brand itself this year. They sold out shows all over the world. And let's talk about one of the divisions I think that had probably the strongest year in NXT, the tag division. We had a lot of great tag teams come through there. We saw American Alpha and Enzo and Cassidy called up. We've seen the emergence of Gargano and Ciampa, who, honestly, if you had told me that these two little indie guys were going to be wearing WWE gold, I'd have called you crazy.
Yeah, and they are phenomenal. They've not only had one of the best matches of the year against each other, but they've also had one of the best matches of the year as a tag team.
It's absolutely insane. We've obviously got the two-time champs, the top guys, the Revival. So when I say to you NXT Tag Team Wrestling, who's the team that comes to first to mind?
Yeah, that one's tough. I mean, obviously American Alpha did spend a good bit of this year in NXT, and they were one of the most dominant teams on the brand. I think that, Ciampa and Gargano came on a little bit late in terms of maybe giving them this award. I don't know. I think that I'd probably go American Alpha, but you can't go wrong with American Alpha, the Revival, or Team DIY. I think you could also throw in the winners of the Dusty Rhodes Memorial Tournament. What are they called? The Authors of Destruction. Authors of Pain. That's what they call those guys. Thank you. So they're definitely a team that's on the up and up, but I would probably go with American Alpha.
I think that's a great answer. My list begins and ends with a Revival. From January to December, every time. And we always say this like, oh, wow, the tag team match really did steal that card. The Roadblock pay-per-view, you got the first main roster taste. They stole the show with Enzo and Cass. working a very specific style, but they drag Enzo and Cass to a 4-star match. I love that they're a great actor, great entertainment, not the best in-ring technicians. Then we go to NXT TakeOver Dallas, and they open the show with American Alpha. That's one of the matches. At that moment, I didn't get as lost in it as I thought as I would going on rewatches, but I rewatched that entire card, and that Finn Samoa Joe match is amazing. Shinsuke versus Sammy.
Oh yeah.
But that opening match defines the entire night. Then you go to the series revival. Yeah, they have the one more Alpha match on television. Take the belts back at the end, and then you get into the series with DIY. And when I tell you that we're going to get to it in a second, shortlist match of the year, promotion internationally wide, is the 2 out of 3 falls tag team title match.
Oh, it's one of the best matches I've ever seen.
I can't describe how great. I did a preview on the show, and I said that it could be match of the night. It was match of the weekend. It may be match of the year for me across promotions. We'll talk about it later. But honestly, if you talk about tag team wrestling across the world, I'm saying Revival won. I'm talking Young Bucks. I'm talking whatever Matt Hardy's doing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, whatever Broken Matt or whatever you want to call it.
I'm talking. You bring me your best talent, they will bow. The Revival can get a 5-star match on anyone, and they proved it in a variety of styles. And if they ever call them up, I'm really excited for their inevitable record-breaking run as tag team champions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can't go wrong there. Certainly you can't. I think what they've done has been outstanding, and they're one of these. They're like that kind of throwback tag team, and just they're just great. It's really hard to say a bad word about.
It's so funny because people are like, "What's their gimmick?" Like they're just wrestlers.
Yeah, what is it? What's their saying on their shirts? It's yeah, no flips, just fists. I love that. I love that.
Arn and Tully Anderson. It's Arn and Tully. In 2016, I can't believe it's actually happening. Next category, NXT Female Superstar of the Year. This one was weird for me. I immediately go to Asuka because just she's been on top of the division and so dominant. And then I start to think about the young ladies who left. But I don't want to. I can't award Carmella for her main roster work. Is basically what I'm saying.
Well, I think they've done okay. With her on the main roster, they've done this where she goes after Nikki Bella thing, but they kind of used Carmella to promote Nikki Bella even more, which just kind of goes into the whole behind the scenes everything is how much does John Cena have to do with this, and how much is he helping her out? I mean, dude, I hate to say
Nikki can go now.
She's great. She's great. I'm not saying she's not great because I really do enjoy her work. I think she has worked tremendously hard coming from, Diva Search that her and Brie won way back in the day all the way to now. I mean, she has become a really good performer and gone a long way. But that doesn't mean that the politics behind the scenes aren't working in her favor. That's all I'm saying.
Let's stick to NXT. Female wrestler, the superstar.
No, you're talking about Carmella. That's what I'm getting at.
I did that.
But you said you couldn't reward her for her main roster work, but what does that have to do with her work in NXT?
I found her so bland in NXT, and I didn't know she needed a heel turn. And so now I'm kind of revisiting what I really thought about her work there. But you're right, I can't do that. For me, it's Asuka. I think they've almost booked themselves into a corner because they've made her Brock Lesnar.
That's a good point.
None of anyone who gets into a feud lower than Asuka and doesn't dominate that feud, they're damaged going into the match with her. I think bringing in a Mickie James was a great idea for Toronto. They worked.
That was a really good match, by the way, and I'm pretty intrigued to see what she does now that she's signed back.
SmackDown brand.
Yeah, so whatever they do with her, what character they give her, is she going to be a face, she going to be a heel, is she going to be crazy Mickie James? I think there's a lot of possibilities.
See, I wasn't around for Mickie James. I had to be educated on Mickie James. I'll tell you what I saw at NXT Toronto, I'm in on Mickie James.
Great match.
But yeah, I think it's Asuka. I think she dominated the division with good reason. She has so much charisma. her language is her English isn't the best yet, but every time she has to go on the mic, she connects.
No, you're totally right. And, I'm going to go with the upset here, and I'm going to go with the woman who will eventually take the title from Asuka. I'm going with Ember Moon.
That's a great pick. What makes you go with Ember Moon?
Mainly, well, her gimmick is fantastic.
Really
that whole yeah, it's almost like a werewolf type thing they're doing, and like with the eyes, it's like a orange contacts or whatever, and like she has one of the greatest finishing moves I've ever seen. And you are the one that like put me onto this. You go, dude, you got to watch this finishing move. I'm like, okay, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like a top rope flip stunner. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how does she like John Cena can't pull off the springboard stunner with any success. Yet this woman jumps off the top rope, does a front flip, and connects with a stunner. It's absolutely beautiful. And she never misses it. You're totally right. She hits it perfectly every time. And I guarantee you she's going to be the woman that eventually takes the title off Asuka's hands. So
that's a great
I'm going to go with her.
Thank you. See, because now you got me thinking, how soon before we see WWE brand contact lenses being sold at a merch stand near you?
That's right. Ember Moon contact.
Oh, but they're getting so much money off of her. Oh, my goodness. It's almost unfair. But I think it's going to be interesting to see because they've just announced some more big indie women signings. And it looks like they're gearing up for a Cruiserweight Classic-esque women's invitational in the spring. I think this is going to be that could be the vehicle to launch Ember Moon to the title.
I could really see that. Yeah, just doing one of those kind of, like you said, those invitational style things.
Even though the Cruiserweight Classic was amazing, we all knew Vince wasn't putting over someone who wasn't signed to his company.
That's a good point.
Kota Ibushi was winning this.
Yeah, even though you would hope that Vince doesn't make the decisions like that anymore, but he totally does.
It's just bad business to crown someone else. He's the best one here, and now he's leaving.
Although somebody I'd say to look out for when you talk about all these signings that they made, look out for Julie Real,
yes.
I believe, is what WWE just signed her. And she's kind of a MMA fighter, does a whole bunch of other stuff. And, yeah, I think she could be someone to look out for going forward.
Girls, they pick it up really, really fast. They pick it up really fast. And it's going to be – and that's the other thing is I don't want NXT to start fast-tracking people who don't need to be fast-tracked. Like, she needs to take the time to learn.
And that just goes back to the age-old thing. If I'm in MMA, if WWE comes offering me a contract, I'm like, wait, I don't actually have to get punched in the face.
Hurt, something went wrong.
Like,
perfect.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't actually have to get my brains bashed in, which is why I think eventually, after Conor McGregor gets bored with UFC, WWE is going to pay him so much money.
He'll take over 205 Live. It's going to be great. NXT Male Superstar of the Year. I want to hear your pick first.
It's Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't. Yeah, I don't have any hesitation saying that. I mean, he's such a big worldwide phenomenon, and he came in and really took over. We'll talk about him later in terms of Match of the Year candidates. The match he had with Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver Dallas was outstanding. I mean, one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. And I think that when you talk about a guy that came in with that much publicity, for him to not only agree to go down to NXT and build himself, but to thrive and embrace being and carry the brand, he has done a lot of good work. I know he's going to come up to the main roster at some point in the future and get all of those plaudits and everything that he deserves. But for now, I think him on NXT is perfect because they don't have necessarily that many huge names on the men's side because a lot of them have been called up. So I don't know how long he's going to be down there. Hopefully he enters the Royal Rumble, which would be outstanding. But I just got to go with him. I think there's a couple of other guys you can put into this discussion. Obviously Samoa Joe, Finn Balor as well. But I think it starts and ends with Shinsuke Nakamura, at least this year.
The year opened. You know what? I don't want to agree with you because I had a different answer when I sat down.
Okay.
That's a really Because you know what? Because I'm going to make it. Oh, wow. Because if you take the year, then we're also including Wrestle Kingdom against AJ.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow. By the way, AJ Styles flipped out on somebody who called New Japan the Indies for that.
I'm sure he has a lot of respect for that
place. It was
place.
pretty fun.
That place made him and his family a lot of money by getting from WWE.
Yes, it did.
You just talked me into it.
All right.
I was here for Joe, man. I was here for the super muscle buster in the cage against Finn at the end. It was amazing. Like everything Joe does, like he's such the perfect heel, and he's been such a cornerstone. And I'm super excited for John Cena's return promo to be interrupted by a coquina clutch. I'm super excited for that. If that happens, by the way, it's over. Like you can't. WWE becomes bulletproof in my eyes. I'm sorry.
See, I think that I would love to see that, but at the same time, it looks like they're going to thrust Cena back into the AJ Styles title picture.
But man, what if they're working on us all? They just took the belt off Joe again.
Maybe. Yeah, I know. So maybe, he's red hot right now. He's so.
And if there's anyone who we can guarantee could be the heel against John Cena, it's Samoa Joe. He brings that air of like real physical, because I think he'd size up well against Cena. God, they used to train together. I need that to happen. But you know what? You talked me into it. Shinsuke Nakamura from Wrestle Kingdom 10 all the way to TakeOver Toronto. Have a year, man. Goodness gracious. And now I got to ask you, NXT Match of the Year. I have my answer. I will not be moved off my answer.
I know where you're going to go, and I don't know if I can just say that the 2 out of 3 falls match between DIY and the Revival is just the NXT match of the year, because it's one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. But I am also torn between Sami Zayn and Shinsuke at TakeOver Dallas.
It is a perfect wrestling match.
It really is. But, I mean, just the drama and everything that went along in that 2 out of 3 falls match. I mean, it was the perfect build. It was a WrestleMania style build for Ciampa and Gargano, where they lose to these guys, and then Gargano gets hurt, and then you have all this stuff, and then finally they overcome all the odds to beat the Revival. I think I've got to go with it. I've got to go Team DIY. I love Sammy, I love Shinsuke, but it's got to be the tag match.
It's a really funny continuity thing that if you pay attention to when the tapings are done, Gargano had to sell a knee injury that hadn't aired on television yet.
Right.
It was something where he couldn't sell, or he had to sell. It was really well done, and I want to just tip my cap to NXT for that. I'm rambling because you're right. There's nothing else I can say. That's my favorite match of the year. Full stop.
It was phenomenal. It was outstanding.
I could watch that match every day for the rest of my life and find something new to appreciate. From bell to bell. They had a story to tell, and they did it expertly. The simultaneous tap to close it all out. Bravo, gentlemen. That should shut up anyone saying that WWE doesn't give indie guys a chance, because Ciampa and Gargano started as enhancement talent on NXT. They brought in for certain dates to people go over. But they were good in the locker room. They liked their work ethic. They said, hey, we're doing this Dusty Classic. Come on board. Be a tag team for a couple matches. NXT champs now. Match of the year. And you can say, oh, we're just one podcast. Wait till the lists come out. It's going to be the top of a lot of lists.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. That's NXT, man. That was a great 2016 NXT wrestling, I think. Anything else you want to mention from the brand for the year?
Not really, other than I'm very intrigued to see, what they do with Bobby Roode going forward. I mean, he obviously gets wrestling entrance of the year. I mean, it's not even close.
Again, it's just like the 2 out of 3 falls match. I will brook no dissent.
Yeah, I mean, when he came, the first match he had, and he came out to that, I remember watching it. I'm just like, this is incredible. Like, from the music to the robe And then at the most Takeover Toronto when he did it,
with the choir.
I mean, he had the whole
goodness.
the choir and everything. I mean,
and it was two Toronto boys, him and Ty.
That's right. It was outstanding. So, yeah, I definitely think that that Bobby Roode is going to have a very big 2017, and hopefully he gets up to the main roster at some point in 2017, so we can see what he has to do up there.
Action. Yeah, I'm excited for, and not to sound like the prototypical, typical NXT fan. These signings, man, they signed Tommy End, man. Like, they're throwing a UK classic. Like, I'm really.
that UK classic, the UK title belt looks
great
sweet.
Looking belt. and I hate to be the NXT guy whose eyes always one step ahead, but some of the talent they're bringing in here, just even Eric Young getting the Sanity thing off the ground. I want to see more.
Yeah.
I'd love to see give TM61, give them some more personality because it's there. You saw it in the Dusty finals.
Yeah, that match
was a
really
good match.
Good.
It's better than people give it credit for.
And people were climbing up like the thing that was, they were climbing up the crane that was holding up the cage that was holding up Paul Ellering. it was phenomenal.
Amazing, and I'm excited to let them kind of take over as the tag division transitions. I think it's gonna be interesting, and I think it's gonna be interesting now that the women's division is settling after their transition. Because, like you said, Ember Moon is coming, and she hasn't had real big storylines yet, and they're building up this little cadre of, I guess, mean girls from Australia who are just going to get fed to Ember Moon. Like, she's going to be winning handicap matches against them. It's going to be
great.
Give me two monsters. And the first time Ember Moon and Asuka touch is going to be bananas.
Oh, it's going to be electric. There's no doubt about that.
I'm 100% here for it. Let's go to the main roster. This is probably the easiest award I think we can give all night. WWE Tag Team of the Year.
I mean, doesn't it have to be the team that held the belts now for the longest reign ever?
The former, tip of the cap.
Yeah.
WWE World Tag Team Champions. The New Day.
You have your bootios this morning?
They didn't make sure I wasn't booty. I know that you have bought the cereal, which is a commitment to the business that I can't match.
I mean, it's just a $10 box of Lucky Charms. I mean, it's really
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's 100% just Lucky Charms that they've kind of repurposed.
If someone asks you what was the New Day's 2016 like, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as a group of wrestlers that took a gimmick, embraced it. First of all, when they first came out, when the New Day first came out, the gimmick was bad because of the way the WWE tried to make it. But they took it and made it their own and made it great.
Sam.
And
they came out in Saiyan armor at WrestleMania.
Out of the
giant box of Bootios.
They were the Ginyu Force. It was outstanding. It was one of the greatest entrances I've ever seen out of the giant Bootios box.
And they still merch in Dallas. They were selling Stone Cold merch. They outsold Stone Cold and everyone else in Dallas, Texas that weekend.
Oh, when Raw came to Atlanta, or was it? Yeah, it was Raw came to Atlanta. I got the Bootios T-shirt. I had to do it. I had to get the Bootios T-shirt. Why not? I mean, it's one of my favorite T-shirts. In fact, I have and I think I tweeted you asking you if you're jealous of this. I bought the Toys R Us had an exclusive run of pop vinyl figures, and it's all three members of the New Day, and Xavier Woods has Francesca too in his hand. So I mean, jealous. I was all in on the New Day merch.
My biggest disappointment is that there isn't another tag team that I could even say was close.
I will say that they came on really late, but the Cesaro-Sheamus tag team is pretty good. It's the way that they've built them has been solid. But I agree, there's not really. I mean, it's New Day, and it's not close just because Cesaro and Sheamus don't have enough of a sample size. But I think they could be the one in 2017 if you continue to go that route, or maybe you just break them up. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. It's not really close. It's the New Day.
I love And it's interesting to watch. Kind of, you see other wrestlers talk about Cesaro and how much respect they have for him, but I'm glad I have a pretty good idea that the New Day probably got to pick who they gave the rub to, and I'm glad, and I hope that they chose Cesaro because he's Cesaro. It's like I said on Raw last night. It's we're clapping for him. We're happy for him.
Happy for him for sure. I just hope that he's not stuck in the tag team for too long because I know
I agree 100%.
I need him to win singles gold, man. He is world heavyweight title.
I guarantee you will get
worthy.
there, but you can't push everyone at once, and you and I both know that.
Course.
But I'll tell you what, I just if you give me 20 minutes of Kofi Kingston and Cesaro, I'd be the happiest guy in the world. They have such amazing chemistry that was on display at the pay-per-view this weekend. We'll go WWE next. Female Superstar of the Year.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Okay, it wasn't tough for me. Yeah.
Really?
You got Charlotte? Slam dunk, dude. I watch how much she's growing that mic. I watch the things, the way she steps up in big matches. The WrestleMania triple threat, man. She did amazing across the board work. You can't mention Charlotte without mentioning Sasha because they worked so well together this year. And they did so much work together this year. But I just can't get past Charlotte's the full package. Sasha's still developing on the mic. I think it's hurting her playing babyface. I think she doesn't work well babyface. I think if you take her to SmackDown and let her heel off on Becky Lynch, that'd be awesome. Actually, if I had my way, it'd be Becky on Raw with Charlotte because size-wise, they make more sense in a match. And then Sasha and Bayley heel face on SmackDown.
Yeah, I do agree that I think Sasha's boss character, that swag, that arrogance, works much better as a heel. And we even saw on Monday Night Raw where she was like, I don't feel like the boss anymore. And then Nia Jax came out and obliterated her. It's like, well, that means they're still going to keep Sasha as a face. But right. But, it's Charlotte. It's Charlotte just because, like you said, if she hadn't grown on the mic, she was really bad on the mic when she first got called up to the main roster.
Like she has baby, and she can't work babyface either.
Right, but I mean, they had Ric Flair bringing her along too, and they had to do that just because she couldn't really speak for herself all that much. But she did a really good job of getting better at that. I'm trying to think of anybody else that could be up for,
if Nikki had
the women's wrestler of the year. Yeah, no, Nikki would be in the discussion, and I think she obviously had a really good run with the formerly the Divas title, as they called it. I know it's 2016 only. So yeah, it's Charlotte, probably a close second to Sasha, and then I think 2017 is going to be the year of the hugs.
I think it's the year of Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch is Sting, by the way. I think they asked Charlotte about it. It's like, oh no, Becky's my Sting. I'm her Rick.
Well, I mean, with the brand separation, you can have a year of hugs and a year of Becky Lynch.
Right. I also want to give a tip of the cap to Alexa Bliss, who is probably a top 5 heel in wrestling. She's amazing.
She's doing great stuff.
Male Superstar of the Year. Do you have a pick for this?
Oh, this one's tough. I think
let's talk it out before you reveal.
Well, AJ Styles is definitely in the discussion, as is Kevin Owens. I think that the problem is, there are guys that you would like to put into this that they didn't push to a certain degree. Right. Seth Rollins, he's in this, although he was hurt for a good chunk.
He had an impact when he came back, though. That pop with that.
Right, he did have a huge impact. Oh, gosh, yeah. Dean Ambrose. I even think you got to throw Chris Jericho into here because of the work he's done. I mean, the healing work he's done has been outstanding. And that's the thing. He's been one of the mainstays of wrestling. I mean, since you and I were watching Nitro back in the day, and when he was underappreciated and came to WWE and they realized what they had in him. And I mean, that promo he cut on The Rock his first night in WWE is still one of my favorite wrestling promos of all time. And he's still doing that. I mean, that's the thing. This list of Jericho is so outstanding that he's doing this. He put Santa Claus on the list on Monday night. I mean,
over like a notepad.
He did. He got over a clipboard.
That's amazing.
But I think, I think I'm going to go with Kevin
Okay.
Owens here.
See, and I thought very long and hard about this because Roman Reigns, I've loved his in-ring stuff. Like, I just think he's underappreciated, and I know it ended poorly, but that spear he gave Shane McMahon off that coast.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. I mean, Shane McMahon, dude. How many spots in one match, by the way, can Shane McMahon have? It's like, dude, you don't have to jump off the top rope through the table and then.
I hope Shane enjoys his bump retirement.
Like, you don't have to. What was it, Braun Strowman that he did the elbow drop, the flying elbow drop?
Why would you ever take another bump?
Yeah, dude. I mean, that spear was brutal.
It scared me. It scares me. Randy Orton went and comforted his kid.
He did, which is great. I think in order for you to win this award, you have to have been involved in one of the matches of the year. And I'll say this: AJ Styles and Roman Reigns at Extreme Rules was a phenomenal match. As was Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble.
Because Kevin Owens put on that no man standing match, and then the performance he put on. And I'm not a Rumble guy. I've covered this before. I'm not a huge Rumble guy, but stop. But the story he told when he was in there, by coming in and immediately eliminating AJ, super heel.
Yes.
He's my favorite, like, I guess, full-time character. But for me, Wrestle Kingdom 10. WrestleMania. Babyface through the ceiling. Fantastic heel turn. SummerSlam, John Cena, middle of the ring.
Yeah.
As we record at 9 o'clock tonight, he crossed the 100-day mark as WWE champion. Which is
crazy to think. This man is the WWE champion. This guy who, back in the X Division days of TNA, nobody ever would have thought.
An aneurysm waiting for me because you said that.
Nobody ever would have thought that kid would be where he is right now.
AJ bleeping Styles. He's everywhere he's been, from Okinawa to Oklahoma, the most over man in the world. He showed up. The pop. Go rewatch the Rumble. Now that they've edited it.
Oh God!
Whenever we watch this Rumble, they finally edited it because they opened up and stayed on Roman way too long.
Yeah.
They fixed it in the playback. The pop he gets in Orlando,
it's ridiculous.
And since then, people said, "Oh, they'll misuse him. Oh, how he adapted WWE style." No, WWE adapted to his style.
And he hasn't injured anyone doing the Styles Clash yet.
James Ellsworth did his best that first time. Good Lord.
Oh, my God, yeah.
You see AJ catch his knee. There you go. That's why I'm actually here. He could have killed James Ellsworth on national television. He saved that man's life. That man's a hero. Wrestler of the year. Dude, AJ Styles is so damn good. They went on a B pay-per-view. They went on tables, ladders, and chairs. And AJ Styles did a springboard 450 through a table and scorpioned himself.
That was outstanding. Oh my gosh, that was incredible.
AJ Styles is 41 years old.
I gotta say though, the inevitable crossover Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles match is something that I need to see.
I met AJ Styles, but after you said Kevin Owens, remember him and Sammy at Battleground? Remember the ladder bump at Royal Rumble? Which, by the way, the only thing I want for 2017 is ladder wars. I need it. I know WWE sounds crazy. Give one of them a belt and say ladder match. And then say, get no producers involved. You leave those two men to plot their match. Just let them tell the story they need to tell. And then don't let them touch for like 2 years. But we need that. The fact that you gave me a free Sami Zayn Kevin Owens match on Raw, I think 2 weeks ago, was a slap in the face. Show a little respect to two men who could. Sami Zayn works well with anyone, but obviously the Owens chemistry is the realest thing in America.
Well, that's the thing. That's why that match a couple weeks ago was so weird.
I was like, wait a second. This feels strange. This feels off. But I tell you what, I've thought about some more. I'm sticking with AJ Styles. I have to. I rewatched that Wrestle Kingdom match the other day, and the only better pure match I saw this year was probably Kenny Omega's G1 Climax finale.
Yeah, but that's something. I don't think that's the thing. These shows, these podcasts would be terrible if we just agreed on everything. So, I mean, yeah, I think that, I think that your pick is a great one, but I have no problem sticking with mine. I mean, I just go back to, like you said, that match with Sammy at Backlash, or not Backlash, but Battleground. See, that was stupid pay-per-view name.
The other thing is we need fewer pay-per-views, WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember any of these, but yeah, and then the match with Dean at the Royal Rumble was just ridiculous.
Kevin Owens, like, honestly, probably if they treated him better with the title these last couple months, I probably would have given it to him.
Yeah, no, that's not on him.
But I can only review what I saw.
That's true.
Speaking of what we saw, last one, WWE Match of the Year.
Whew. This one's tough. I mean, we've mentioned some of these matches.
But I want to throw a wrinkle in. I'm going to open it up to CWC as well.
Okay. Well, if you're doing that, then Gargano. Oh, Gargano and Ciampa match as well is outstanding. That's fine. I mean, if you want to go to the CWC, that's on. I don't think I'm going to go that route.
Consideration.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know. It's hard for me to choose. I mean, that Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens match at Royal Rumble, I mean, I know it was the beginning of the year, but that was outstanding. The AJ Styles Roman Reigns match was really, really good. You know what was also really good? The Survivor Series match where we saw Shane McMahon almost get killed.
First of all, it's the longest traditional Survivor Series match ever.
For a big mixed, like, multi-tag person match, which I am usually not a fan of because I think they're lazy, that was one of the best I've ever seen. No, it wasn't lazy at all. I mean, they'll tell Shane McMahon how that was. But you know what? I think I got to go with Kevin and Dean Ambrose. I mean, again, I know that was in January, but, man, I just remember watching that match. And I can't not consider all the matches that The Miz and Dolph Ziggler have had over the past few months.
Good for both of them.
It really has, because they were both kind of stuck in the middle, or stuck in kind of nothingness. But yeah, I'm going to have to go with Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens. That match was outstanding. Awesome, and I mean, it just that's the thing. It takes a lot from a match to usurp the main attraction of a pay-per-view, and at the Royal Rumble, that is a Royal Rumble. But I don't remember the Royal Rumble very much, other than AJ Styles made his debut in it, and quite frankly, I don't even remember who won the damn thing.
It was Hunter.
But that's right. It was Hunter. That's right. It was for the belt. That's right. It was for the belt, and Hunter won it. See, that's the thing, though. The only real thing I remember for the Royal Rumble was Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens completely tearing down the house.
It's worth noting, 2 years in a row, that's happened. The year before, it was the triple threat with Brock, Seth, and John Cena. So
right.
I'm usually not a.
That was Seth's. I think that was Seth's really big singles coming out party.
Splash, yeah, it was. Yeah. And while I'm not always high on this pay-per-view, the Rumble is coming, and they've sent a message the last 2 years that the undercard may blow you away as well. My match of the year is because of what the story they told in the 20x20 ring, but it's also what the story represented. AJ Styles, clean as a sheet, middle of the ring, SummerSlam.
Yeah. He beat John Cena.
It was for everyone who said that AJ got buried for letting Jericho go over at Mania. I was like, well, the next night he got a number one contender spot and headlined the next two pay-per-views. So maybe not buried.
Yes.
Which is why we need to be careful when we start throwing on words like that.
That was a great match, by the way. That was an understatement.
It was my favorite match of WrestleMania, including the Undertaker Shane McMahon spot fest.
Yeah, where Shane McMahon again, like, dude, stop doing that.
But yeah, that's my match of the year. It built on their previous encounters. I loved AJ doing the forward roll out of the hip toss and just clapping at John like that. You felt it, like the building was electric. The story they told in the ring was amazing. Cena hitting the Super AA, and for, I believe, the third time in the history of Cena's career, someone kicked out of it. And Cena's retreating to the corner, terrified. Cena took 2 Styles clashes. It was just, for me, that was a masterclass in storytelling. And it also, I can't divorce it from what it means. The ultimate TNA guy, middle of the ring over the ultimate WWE guy.
And I think they know they knew what they had with AJ Styles.
First,
the pop he got. Well, I mean, the pop he got at Royal Rumble and everything, they were like, they didn't know it at first. But when he came out of the Royal Rumble, they were probably like, okay, okay, we got something here. And then, it's been great ever since.
It's been really just something to watch, man. And anything you're looking forward to, particularly in 2017?
Yeah, I'm honestly, and this is you're gonna laugh at this, but I'm looking forward to what they do with Goldberg and Lesnar now, because that.
Since this happened.
Well, I'm just saying and even you said that you were. That's the thing. I mean, here's what I got to say about that. I like what they did with the way that they just completely threw. Nobody saw that coming, and if you say you saw that coming, you're a liar. You're a liar. You did not see Goldberg destroying Brock.
Match. I didn't see 90 seconds. No way.
No. And nobody saw Goldberg winning. Like, that was the other thing. Like, everybody thought this was going to be a one and done, but they've signed Goldberg to a deal now. And I think that Lesnar probably eliminates him from the Royal Rumble, and then they set up a match at WrestleMania. And, I think that's going to be something to look forward to. I just want to see the storytelling that they continue to do with that. And Goldberg, I think, it's kind of like I was just saying with AJ Styles. Goldberg got a lot better of a reception than they thought he was going to get. So I think they're trying to capitalize on all of that. And so I'm looking forward to that just in terms of a short-term kind of thing, because I don't see, Goldberg's not going to be around past WrestleMania. Right. But, I want to see that, and maybe he gets the induction into the Hall of Fame the night before. We'll see. But I want to see that story, and quite frankly, I want to see if the brand extension stays around, because the pay-per-view numbers have not been great. The network numbers probably haven't been in terms of watching what they would have wanted it to be for some of these things. And quite frankly, I think they're just doing too much. They've overextended themselves, so they need to rein it back in a little bit. And I'm also intrigued for the call-ups like Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe and what they're going to do. I am intrigued by 205 Live and what they do with the cruiserweights going forward. Neville flipped into the cruiserweight division now. Heel Neville is pretty solid. I really like Noam Dar and his trying to go after Alicia Fox right now with Cedric Alexander. I thought that was a cool little thing they started to do on Monday. I think 205 Live is going to be good. But I'm just excited for a lot of maybe the finishing up of some of these storylines, like the Seth Rollins Triple H, and that should be a really good match when we get it at Mania. So I think there's a lot to look forward to, and I think the future's pretty bright here with WWE going forward.
Hey man, you hit a lot of things I was going to say that I'm looking forward to, but I think one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is this very, very slow Dean Ambrose heel turn. And I think it's coming. I think he deserves it. I think the pop he got night Money in the Bank is what they should be aiming for with him. I think he's at his best when he's at the top or near top of a card, when he's working for a title. I'm glad they've kept him in title pictures. Even now as he's working for the IC title, I'm glad that he's staying in the spotlight, because it's when he flounders, when he doesn't really have a story, that I feel his character suffers. I'm excited to see what they do with the Wyatts. I never thought I'd say that, but putting gold on Bray Wyatt, like that made me super interested in that entire situation.
Well, and the whole Randy Orton thing, because it totally feels like this is a long con.
But I think
where like he's going to turn on Bray eventually.
What they're doing on house shows now, after they win their match in the loop, Randy will fake an RKO and then hug Bray, and they all go to the corners.
But it's going to happen eventually. Like, he's going to turn on him.
He's saying how creatively it's like energized him, and it's nice because he said, my entire career I've just been Randy Orton, third generation superstar. Now I've got something. I've got a gimmick. He's like, it's fun. He's like, I'm thinking about changing my ring gear. Like, he seems to be in it for the long haul and kind of energized working with. But the thing is, he's working with another third generation guy in Bray.
I understand. I guess, and for me, I just feel like it should end because the two of them, just like a singles one-on-one feud that doesn't involve Kane, that doesn't, that keeps all these other ancillary pieces out of it. I think they showed in the little bit of time that they did have before Randy jumped on board with the Wyatts, I think they could do another thing that would be really good. But I just think that maybe it does need to be a new thing with Randy Orton, and they do this for a long time. But it just feels like this is something where they view Randy Orton as not just a Wyatt family member. He's a big name,
right, yeah.
And they're devoid of big names. I'll say that. They're going to have to figure something out here because you can't just keep recycling the same matches over and over and over.
I do like the idea that sliding him to the side, because if he wasn't with the Wyatts, he'd be in the title picture. And so I think that it's going to give people I'm excited to see a series of Dolph AJ matches. They're going to be.
Oh, me too.
AJ's going to sell. They're going to sell for each other so well. I'll believe Dolph Ziggler's offense for the first time in probably 5 years.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't really understand them taking the Intercontinental title off Ziggler so quickly, and then I realized, oh wait, they're thrusting him into the title picture. Yeah, which is
it's a great place for him. I know it's probably just a maintenance feud until we get. I know we kind of speculated AJ John, but I really hope it's a swerve and we get AJ Taker. If you could just give me AJ Taker universe, that'd be great.
And I don't want to, make you go too crazy here, but just imagine a possible Samoa Joe AJ Styles WrestleMania match.
See, and that's the thing about AJ, and that's the thing about this roster, is I want that really bad, but I also want to get AJ and Shinsuke in the Granddaddy Mall to just do what they can do.
Oh my God.
Give them 25 minutes and just stay out of their way.
They need to do AJ and Samoa Joe with Dixie Carter in the shark cage above the ring.
That'd be Rumble. The winner gets to face Shinsuke and Mania. I'd watch that series of matches very intently. Sam, thanks for coming on, man. Tell the people where they can find all your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at SamJFranco. I am the morning show co-host on 960 The Ref, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. You can stream us. We're on TuneIn, iHeart, 960theref.com as well. Follow on Twitter at 960The Ref, also Facebook /960The Ref, and Instagram as well at 960The Ref. And you can find my other stuff. Mouths of the South podcast covering Atlanta United on the SB Nation Network for DirtySouthSoccer.com. Follow on Twitter at MOTS Podcast, also at Dirty South Sock, that's SOC. And last but not least, I am doing weekly Falcons previews for 247 Sports. You can find those at atl.247sports.com.
Hey, man, we got a defense left after losing that corner, man.
I think we'll be okay, man. We just got to outscore people.
NFC offenses, really, honestly.
You just got to outscore people.
And I feel like we can do that kind of thing to people.
Hey, 4 Pro Bowlers on offense that just announced today. You got Matt Ryan and Julio starting, and you've got Alex Mack at center and Devontae Freeman as well. So that's 4 Pro Bowlers on offense.
Strong team, man. And we both know how Atlanta's hurt us so much in the past, and I've covered it on this podcast. But I'm not allowing myself to hope, but I'm intrigued.
There you go. I like that.
This has been the Unanimous Decision Podcast, brought to you by the MTR Network. Follow them on Twitter at the MTR Network. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. I'm D Palm, your host. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. You can also catch me on the Transmissions Podcast. It's a Transformers podcast. I was a co-host. It'll be airing on, I believe, the 23rd. It'll go live. I'll be pivoting on social media, all that fun stuff. A little something ahead into Christmas. We're going to have one more show before the new year. I know Chris put the announcement up that we were taking a break, but clearly I have a problem. So Chris and I will be back midweek next week to recap the year in MMA and look forward to the big Ronda Rousey return to the Octagon that coming Saturday. Until next time, this is your show. This is your outro. See you next week.
Southern boys with the farmer strength. Ain't nobody man enough to feel the pain. And you could be next. You better give respect. 'Cause ain't nobody